Thank you for joining us on The People Behind Your Water, where we spotlight the water resources issues impacting Santa Clara County. My name is Teresa Alvarado, and I'm the manager of the Office of CEO Support and Communications at the Santa Clara Valley Water District. The Santa Clara Valley Water District manages an integrated water resources system that includes the supply of clean, safe water, flood protection, and stewardship of streams on behalf of Santa Clara County's 1.8 million people. The district effectively manages 10 dams and surface water reservoirs, 3 water treatment plants, a state-of-the-art water quality laboratory, nearly 400 acres of groundwater recharge ponds, and more than 275 miles of streams. We provide wholesale water and groundwater management services to local municipalities and provide water retailers who deliver the drinking water directly to homes and businesses throughout Santa Clara County. So my guest today is the Water District's Chief Operating Officer of the Water Utility Enterprise, Jim Fiedler. Welcome, Jim.
Thank you, Teresa.
Thanks for being here. So I already talked a little bit about what the Water District does, what we're responsible for regionally. Tell us about your role here at the Water District.
Right. Well, I've been here about 30 years, and my current job is I'm the Chief Operating Officer for the Water Utility. And in that capacity, I oversee the staff that really manage the water resources for the county. That includes our local reservoirs, and we have 10 of them, our groundwater basin, of which you see a percolation pond behind us here today that we manage, our importation of water to Santa Clara County, our water conservation programs encouraging residents to save more water, our water treatment facilities that allow us to treat water for delivery to our retailers for drinking water, and also our laboratory that we provide and test the water to make sure it meets or exceeds drinking water standards.
Wow, that's a big mission that encompasses a lot. I would imagine that it didn't start off to be that broad. What is the history of the Water District?
Well, the history of water in our county is very interesting. Santa Clara County in the 1800s largely relied upon local water that was diverted from streams and the creeks in the county. And farmers started to pump from the groundwater basins as early as the 1850s. In fact, that's when the first well was constructed in San Jose. So in the early years of the 1800s and the late 1800s, it was basically local resources that really sustained that growing population. The county was used primarily, it was agricultural. Orchards, it was known as the Valley of Heart's Delight. But then in the 1920s, our world started to change. Increasing demand for water. We had overdraft of our groundwater basin. In fact, in Santa Clara County, we had areas where the ground subsided, and this is in the early 1900s.
And that means sink, right?
Right. The ground surface actually physically lowered in elevation, causing concern about utilities and really threatening the livelihood of certain areas of the county. In fact, it created conditions where parts of northern Santa Clara County today are below sea level and are protected by levees to really support and sustain that area of the county. Okay. So with that in mind, what really emerged was the need for better water management in our county. There was some early foresight on the part of some early thinkers that thought, how can we better harness the local water resources? And so in the early 1920s, there was thought that let's do a better job of managing local water. Let's build local reservoirs to really help store local runoff that then can be used to either recharge the groundwater basin or have service deliveries for farmers and agricultural needs in the county.
Okay, so that was, I know in 1929 is when the Santa Clara Valley Water Conservation District was formed, but really the valley transformed a lot post-World War II, and this valley saw a lot of growth. How did we accommodate that from a water resources perspective?
Well, you know, coming out of the 1920s, the realization that something needed to be done. And really the citizens of Santa Clara County decided to form the Water Conservation District in 1929. Ironically, it occurred right at the time when the stock market crashed. Yet the citizens felt that they needed to really band together and form a governmental agency to better manage water resources. With that in hand, this agency was able to use federal dollars and local dollars to help build those local reservoirs that were thought about as being needed in the early 20s. And so in the 1930s, reservoirs were constructed to basically retain and develop that local water resource for recharge. But as you suggest, as this county prospered, water demand also rose, and actually after World War II, or actually leading up in post-World War II, this area was starting to transform from an agricultural-based economy to a manufacturing economy, and again the needs for water demand increased. And so along that same period of time, we continued to see continued groundwater overdrafting and further subsidence in our county. And so that led to looking towards the future. How do we meet the needs of our county to allow us to become truly what we are today?
So right away they saw that local water resources weren't going to be enough, and so they're at the same time the state was developing its water system, delivery system. Talk a little bit about how Santa Clara County benefits from that system.
Right. You know, in many respects, we're not all that unique as far as other parts of the state. Other areas of the state, even the Bay Area, had to look elsewhere outside their own geographic boundaries to provide supplies to meet their needs. For example, Oakland went to the McCollum River to basically import water from the Sierra and deliver water to Oakland in the early part of last century. San Francisco developed the Hetch Hetchy system to take water from Yosemite Valley and transport that to serve San Francisco. In fact, our first importation of water was the very delivery of Hetch Hetchy water into Santa Clara County. Today, Hetch Hetchy supplies serve Milpitas, San Jose, Sunnyvale, Santa Clara, Mountain View, and Palo Alto, and also the peninsula. But it was that development of imported water in the 1950s that really began supplementing our resources with imported supplies.
And that was the first Governor Brown through the state water no, that was the Hetch Hetchy system. But then shortly after that, they were developing the state water project. Is that right?
Because the foresight at the time, and this is the 1960s now, the visionaries back then were looking not just the immediate needs of the community, but looking beyond that. What are the long-term needs for our county to really have a region that thrived? Again, they were looking for economic prosperity, for growth, for jobs, for the pursuit of basically a quality of life for Santa Clara County that needed to be sustained by other water resources found outside the county. And so in the 1960s, the then County Flood Control and Water Conservation District that was managed by the County of San Jose looked elsewhere, and the State Water Project was emerging, and they decided to become a contractor of the State Water Project. And that realized a dream of providing state water through the South Bay Aqueduct to serve San Jose and Santa Clara County, and that became a reality in the 1960s. And coincidentally, or really not so, but through the management of both the local water resources and the importation of water, we were able to really control the subsidence that had plagued this county much of the last century. And so it was great to see now water being effectively managed through groundwater recharge and through the importation of water sources to really sustain the local economy.
And on a later show, we will talk more about flood control, flood protection projects. We're really focused on the water utility side of the house today. So once water gets to Santa Clara County, what happens? Where does it go? How does it get treated?
Well, again, initially, in fact, up to the mid-1960s, all water used in our county was either pumped from the groundwater or surface deliveries of raw water. There were no surface water treatment facilities. And today, fast forwarding now to 2012, we are benefiting by having 3 water treatment plants that basically take imported water, we call it, from the State Water Project and from the Central Valley Project that we've also contracted with. Together with local water, we treated at 3 water treatment facilities. These are advanced facilities that basically treat the water to meet or exceed drinking water standards. And then in turn, we deliver that to water retailers who then directly serve customers, homes and businesses with high quality water that we basically provide.
So we have 3 water treatment plants and a water quality lab, and so the water goes through one of those systems.
Correct. And so we're fortunate to have the ability to really provide not only groundwater supplies, because today half our water supplies are still pumped from the groundwater basin. The other half are really served by either ourselves through these water treatment plants, and a portion is also provided through the Hetch Hetchy system directly to the retailers.
What are those percentages?
Right now in our county, 55% of the water that's consumed annually comes from sources outside the county.
Wow.
40% of that flow through the Sacramento-San Joaquin Delta through both the State Water Project and the Federal Water Project, of which we're a contractor of. 15% come through the Hetch Hetchy system, which is basically water that's diverted around the Delta from the Sierras to serve. So 55% is locally. The other 45%
is imported.
It's imported. The other 45% comes from a number of different sources, the bulk of which is really local sources we talked about earlier, about local groundwater, local runoff from our reservoirs that we then recharge the basin with. And also, currently today, about 5% of our supply is met by recycled water. We're able to work collaboratively with the wastewater discharges in our county, and redirect that water to serve non-potable needs for landscape irrigation or cooling towers. And so that's about 5% of our supply. And then 10% of our supply today is made up by conservation, where citizens have really taken to heart the ethic of really being more efficient with their water uses. And we support that through a number of rebate programs for toilets, for high efficiency washing machines, and really auditing homes to help customers really make the best choices with their water supply.
And I think we have some good examples of drought-tolerant plants behind us here.
That's right.
So this show is entitled The People Behind Your Water. So through conversations with district staff and others in the region who are active on water resources issues, we want to learn more about what they do, but also who they are. So tell us a little bit about how long you've been here at the district and which positions you've held.
Oh, well, I've been here a long time. I've been here 30 years, and it's been an enjoyable time, believe me, because the public doesn't really understand there's a great deal that goes behind providing water supply for Santa Clara County. Oftentimes the public turns the tap on and expects us to be high quality water of sufficient pressure to meet all my, my personal needs. And there's so much that goes on behind the scenes that is vital to the public understanding that we think of water as the gold of Santa Clara County. Because it drives really much of what we do. We can't live without it. And so my career here is an opportunity to really work to provide sufficient water and really work with staff to really do projects that do that. And I've also had the opportunity to work on the flood side, where I spent probably half my time here also working on trying to keep floodwaters away from people through developing important flood protection projects. Our agency has the unique position of not only providing for water supply, but also providing for that flood protection along these very creeks and waterways that I know the citizens of the county pretty hold dearly.
Mm-hmm. But you didn't start off as a chief, so how did you get here? Did you come here from college, and what was your first job here?
Actually, I came here from a consulting firm. I'd worked for another company. In fact, I worked in South America, by the way, for about a year and a half.
Wow.
And they really have some problems at that time, water supply issues. But I came here as an associate engineer working in water supply planning. Then I worked in pipeline design, where I helped develop one of our pipeline systems that brings treated water from one of our treatment plants and deliver it to our customers in our county. And then I was asked to work on the flood side of the organization. And so I headed up some of the flood work we did in our county. I was involved with the Coyote Creek Flood Protection Project that provided flood protection from Alviso to Montague Expressway. An interesting project, very innovative, natural flood protection, and it was pretty fun. And some projects in Palo Alto. And then I was asked to come back to the planning side of the water utility, where I worked on our first integrated water resources plan in the 1990s to really look for how can we better plan for the future. You know, in many respects, we benefited by the foresight of those who have come before us in the insights of planning for the future in reservoirs and imported water and treatment plants. And so I felt that we have a certain opportunity during our legacy to make sure we plan for the future for those who come after us. And then after that experience, I was asked to help lead an effort to raise funds for a special tax. So I was involved in a measure in 2000, the Clean State Creeks, the Natural Flood Protection Program, where we worked on a program to really improve our ability to provide flood protection and creek restoration. And then I came back to the water utility in the mid-2000s and worked as this position since about 2007, I think.
Very good, wow. So when you think about retirement, not that it's going to be anytime soon, but what do you want to see for the organization? What do you want to leave behind to ensure that we're providing the services to Santa Clara County?
Well, when I think of the business as far as the water utility goes, it takes three components. One, it takes the water. And it gave me think, oh, well, that's not a big problem. No, the water is complicated. There's many regulations, making sure it's available in drought years, making sure we have carryover storage and other means to really make the best use of the water. And so making sure that water is available, whether it comes through the delta or stored in our dams and reservoirs, where we're doing a lot of seismic retrofit work now, making sure that that is a source of water that is reliable for our future. The second feature that I think is very important is having the infrastructure, the pipelines, the pump stations, the treatment plants that are ready and capable of providing the service. And as we know, we've seen EPA has done studies, and ASCE, American Society of Civil Engineers, have done studies about the aging infrastructure throughout our country of backbone roads and so forth that really are in dire straits. And our infrastructure in general doesn't get very high grades. And so going forward, we really got to make sure we have an adequate asset management program that make sure that these facilities can continue to provide the high level of service that we expect of them going forward. You know, these were built in the 60s and even earlier, and so we got to make sure that they have the resiliency to carry on and moving forward in time. And then the last element that's needed is really the people. You know, these are jobs that we have in Santa Clara County that can't be outsourced to Asia. These are jobs that need to be done in Santa Clara County. And we need to make sure that we have a talented group of individuals, which we do have, but we want to sustain that talent going forward. So we need to make sure that we get people interested in this profession of providing public service for water supply or flood protection, and make sure that they have the necessary training and skills to carry on the legacy. You know, we can think of ourselves as being irreplaceable. I've been here 30 years and man, the place cannot live without me. The reality is, the day I decide to walk out the door, the show has to go on. We need to make sure that we have folks that really can pick up the responsibility and carry forward and do it in a satisfactory way that meets the needs that I've described, and very importantly, meets the expectations of our customers. Because we may think of ourselves as doing a great job, but if we're perceived as not doing a good job, well, then that's a problem for us. So, you know, throughout my career, yes, we want to be proud of our experience, but also make sure that we're recognized in the eyes of those who we serve. And that's very important to really make sure we make that connection. So the legacy I see is making sure that I've done through my tenure, set up the steps in place that allow those who come after me to really the opportunity to really thrive in many of the ways that I've thrived through my career here.
So you're talking about thriving, our employees thriving, but really without the district, without the services we're providing, it's not the district as an organization, but without the services we're providing, Silicon Valley is really impaired. You know, the Silicon Valley economy, our sustainability as a region. What kinds of things do you think employees of the future are going to be addressing when it comes to water resources issues? I hear a lot about recycled water. I hear a lot about other supply needs. What does that look like?
You know, the future is going to be making sure, like I mentioned, that we have a system that still provides adequacy, but right, looking towards the future, recycled water is going to be a major player going forward. Not just using recycled water for non-potable purposes, but also using it for groundwater.
And drinking water, that means drinking.
Yeah, using it for non-potable, non-drinking water, irrigation and so forth, but then using it for drinking water.
Okay.
And there's opportunities that we can do here. For example, taking that highly treated recycled water, as we're doing now through our water purification center, and using that water to recharge the groundwater basin in ponds such as these, where we could then percolate it into the ground and then have it be a source of drinking water going forward to really stretch out the limited supplies that we may have. We have climate change that we anticipate over the next 50 or so odd years, and the consequences of it are not entirely understood, except we know we're going to see a changing pattern of rainfall and runoff, and that may change the reliability of our supply. And so providing for recycled water is one way to sort of have a drought-proof supply. I also expect that we're going to want to look for more innovative ways and cost-effective ways to do more with less, maybe rainwater harvesting and gray water uses, where we take water that's used in the homes that can be also used in the garden.
Okay.
And so it's a way of sort of thinking, how can that be innovative ways to help us be more, be smarter with the resources we have to stretch those, and then also making sure that we provide water for the environment. We know that we really enjoy the natural beauty of Santa Clara County, yet we realize that it's very fragile, and we have endangered species that live and thrive along and should thrive along our creek systems. So we got to make sure we provide sufficient water and environment and habitat for them to continue to thrive and recover. And that's really part of the duties of water management.
And you know, this is a great example behind us, our percolation pond, which serves not only a water supply purpose, but a great habitat. Can you talk a little about some of these kinds of amenities? Right.
Well, you know, along creeks in our county, just like they were originally part of the needs for humans to really get water for their subsistence, so too it's been a natural habitat for both terrestrial land species and aquatic fish and other aquatic species to thrive. It is very exciting in Santa Clara County to know that while we have an endangered species for steelhead, we've created conditions in our creeks that allow them to continue to migrate today. So we did a flood protection project in downtown San Jose in the 90s and 2000, and we provide a steelhead run for the species to come upstream and spawn, which is very exciting to think in a highly urbanized area, which is probably very rare in the United States. And yet we know that our public really wants to enjoy the natural beauty, So we allow for trails and so forth along our facilities like this one. But they also want to make sure that the habitat thrives. And so it's an ongoing management of making sure we provide habitat. We make sure there's not predators or exotic or invasive species that can compete with the natural species. And it's an ongoing management. It's a highly complex in many respects, because it's, nature doesn't behave as engineering, it's a natural system. But yet we're challenged to make sure we can do things in a way that best benefits the region and the species.
A lot of moving parts. I mean, we think about the Delta and imported water and all the talks and conversations going on with the Delta, climate change, an earthquake could affect levees in the Delta, or even levees here in the South Bay for that matter. There's just a lot of moving parts, aren't there?
Yeah, there is. And the other irony is too, is largely unknown by the public.
Right.
Why shows such as this are so vital to help continue that education and outreach, so people to realize that it's something that we universally take for granted, yet it's so vital to the subsistence of our economy, of our region, of our quality of life, and not well understood. And it's important because we want the public to make informed decisions about supporting the charges that need to be put in place to pay for the system. It doesn't come free. It needs to be paid for and sustained. And it's important for public to realize what goes on behind the water that comes out of the tap. And if they realize that, they may be more sensitive and more responsible in their own practices to realize how precious it really is.
And hopefully, again, getting people more interested in even joining this field, being a part of the water resources management field, I think is really important.
Absolutely. And bringing in the talent that exists in Santa Clara County and realizing that this is something we need to do in Santa Clara County. These are facilities that need to be managed and operated in our county to serve our needs.
In fact, what is that organization that you're involved with?
Baywork.
Bayworks.
Yeah, Baywork is a group of water and wastewater utilities throughout the Bay Area who have banded together recognizing that we have an aging workforce and we've got a plan for our future. So it encourages people, and it's a great website at baywork.org, I think, that really allows the public to tap in and realize what are the jobs that are available in this field. What do the people do? In fact, you'll find video clips on that web page of even some of our own staff that describe how they got involved in this field and why someone would be interested in being an operator, a mechanic, technician, engineer, biologist, human resources staff, communications staff, to really continue to populate and serve the needs for Santa Clara County.
That's great. That's great. So we'll make sure we put that website up at the end of the show as well. But we have so many great materials just to continue to build the public's awareness and understanding. Of course, the Water District's annual report is available. We have a great groundwater quality report that went out to well owners. We do a lot of outreach to well owners, is that right?
That's correct.
So they are one of our direct customers because they're pumping water directly from the ground to serve their needs.
Right.
We have our printed newsletter, which we have copies available. We are more than happy to send them out. And we have this great publication called A Budget in Brief, which summarizes our annual budget in a way that we hope is understandable and accessible for the public, and really reinforces our commitment to delivering the products and services that we are committed to doing. So, and that we put the money behind it and show you where we're spending the public's resources. So hopefully people will take a look at those. Of course, we also have Access Valley Water, which is our online customer service center. That's where folks can submit questions or comments, complaints or compliments to district staff, asking about our services and how to access information. It's a great online customer service center that is also available from our website. And I would also encourage folks to sign up for our monthly electronic newsletter. It only comes out once a month, but it's a great summary of current issues, projects, events. We highlight board meetings that are coming up, and if there are sensitive or controversial topics that will be included, we invite the public and remind the public to come. This is your house, this is our house. And we provide these services for you, and we want to hear from you and engage with you. Also, please feel free to follow us on social media, on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube. We want to connect, we want to be engaged with you. So please go to our website, www.valleywater.org. You'll find all of these materials. You can sign up for our electronic newsletter either through the website or simply shoot me an email at info@valleywater.org. Again, we'll reinforce Baywork, which is a great organization. I really want to thank you, Jim. You cast a large shadow here at the Water District. You have amazing staff. They do good work every day, and it's really been an honor to work with you.
Great.
So thank you all for joining us on The People Behind Your Water. We'll see you next time.